Hello, everybody. What's up, everyone? This is our third Meet the Guest. Meet my guest. Everybody wave to our audience here. We are live right now on Facebook Live. Very excited for today's show. I have my podcast guests here, and you're all going to get to meet them in just a minute. But first, I do want to highlight what today is. It's International Women's Day, which is to uplift women in our business community. And I'm so proud to have Heather here and Loralyn here representing the women in the business community. So exciting. Awesome. And if you don't know what International Women's Day is, it's a global celebration for the social and economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The campaign theme of International Women's Day 2022 is Break the Bias. I can't tell you how many female entrepreneurs and business leaders I've had on my show that talk about being the only person in the room. So I am so excited to speak about this and to promote International Women's Day and see more women in the business community and succeeding as Heather and Loralyn have. So you're going to hear their stories and on their podcast as well. Tonight's show is sponsored by Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their business insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy with Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. Finally, before I introduce our guests, I just want to remind our audience that this is an interactive show. Cecile is here. Pepper is in full effect. She's checking the chat comments. So please leave your question in the comments. She's going to get back to us closer towards the end of the show. If you have any questions for our guests, please post them there, and she will ask them on your behalf. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guests, but I have a special gift for all of my guests, which I am going to share now. And I just have to get this to work. Here we are. All right. So we're in the midst of a share screen issue, which I think everybody is used to at this point in our virtual world. But I thought I'd be a pro at this, and I'm not. So bear with me, everyone. Keep the energy high. Get ready, because I'm just going to share one of my screens now because this isn't working, which I had prepared, I swear, for all of you.
If we weren't live, it probably would work.
So Jordan,
because we're live, it's not going to, because that's how it goes, right?
Exactly. All right. Can you all see this screen now? The screen with this person in the play button? Can you just say yes for me?
No.
Nope.
No. Okay. Well, I was begging for you to say yes. I don't know why it's not sharing. This is crazy. And I can see it here.
Play.
Cecile, are you able to see how I can get this to play? This is crazy. We just went over this in rehearsal. Well, everybody in our Facebook Live, this is what happens in a live event. There we go. And the sound is here. We go. All right. Sorry, everyone. The sound is
going to develop grit and resilience.
Try this again.
Start challenging yourself regularly so that you can make progress. And that is going to develop grit and resiliency that will help you in all your other endeavors.
And I always try and tell them, relax into the experience. If you can just slow things down, you'll be fine.
Coaching helps you get to where you want to be faster, and it also takes you to a higher level that you may not have been able to get to on your own.
A degree doesn't define you. It's what you do that defines you.
I was lucky because I had my grandmother. She knew how to operate as a black person in a white world.
You may not have the best idea in the world, but boy, oh boy, if you believe in it and you can influence and convince other people to believe it, they just might.
It's not going to get any easier. We just got to get better. And I think, that's the seed which helped me, and hopefully it will help some of the viewers and listeners as well.
Hello, all my entrepreneurs and business leaders, and welcome to the Michael Esposito Show.
Yeah.
All right.
I went wild. Nice.
Congratulations, all my guests. Cecile, was that you that shared it, or was it me?
Yes, yeah, I added it to stream.
Thank you so much. What would I do without you, Cecile? What would I do without you? I swear. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What I'd like to do now is introduce all my guests. You guys were all so awesome in studio. I had so much fun with all of you. I'm just going to go around here. I have Heather Howley of Independent Helicopters. Heather, why don't you say hi to our audience today?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm actually in Dallas right now. So a little bit about me. I own Independent Helicopters. I have since 2008. We do mostly flight instruction, but a little bit of tours, charter, utility work for Central Hudson. I absolutely love my job, and I love sharing it with other people because flying is awesome.
And she promised she would fly us out to get some lobsters in Maine very soon.
I do make a trip to Martha's Vineyard for oysters, so that's not unfathomable.
That's what I remember. We have Terrance Weber. Terrance, why don't you share who you are and what you do?
Hi, folks. Thanks again for having me. My name is Terrance Weber. I'm the president and CEO of U.S. Aerials and Equipment rental company based out of New York City.
And Terrance is being shy and modest here, but him and a group of his friends were also featured on the Oprah network, which was pretty cool. He shared that YouTube clip with me, which was really awesome to see. We also have Loralyn of Steer Us. Loralyn, introduce yourself.
So I am Loralyn Mears. I founded Steer Us because Gen Z needs to be upskilled on all of the skills they're not learning in school, right? Including workplace competencies, so that not only Gen Z finds success, but all of their managers who are trying to recruit and manage Gen Z stop losing their minds and their budget trying to manage this exceptionally.
Yeah, and you built your own tech platform for all of this, right?
I did. E-learning platform, content library, coaching, coach roster, all kinds of goodies. Really innovative, mix and match sort of storytelling style, gamified learning, all that stuff.
Very cool. And Jordan, I told you I was going to do this to you, but going from behind a pizza counter to VP of loans at Sawyer Savings, Jordan Depew. Jordan, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
How's it going, everybody? Jordan Depew. Like Mike said, Sawyer Savings Bank, Vice President on Lending. I've been at the bank for 8 years, and like Mike said, I was slinging pizzas before that. So it's a very smooth transition. It's one and the same, essentially.
Same thing. We're all talking about cheese, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we have the intro machine, Joe Templin. Joe, go ahead, introduce yourself.
So I'm Joe Templin. I am a business Swiss Army knife and the author of Everyday Excellence, a daily guide to growing, which is essentially a multivitamin for your life.
Yeah, it's a very cool book. Joe was kind enough to gift me one, a signed, autographed version. Is everybody still there?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Cecile, you're just in full screen mode right now. Awesome, thank you. I got a signed version. It's a really cool book because it's not just a book that you read, but it's pretty much a workbook. So you can look into different days. I have to be honest, Joe. I tried to commit myself to going in every day and doing one page a day, and I haven't done it yet. But I'm trying. I swear. All right. Without further ado, what I'd like to do is just go around. This is a meet the guest. So this is for all of you to meet my guests that have been on the Michael Esposito Show. And if you haven't downloaded the Michael Esposito Show yet, do so today. You can do it on the iHeartMedia platform. You can download your episodes and listen to these awesome people and their stories. The show is all about interviewing people like them, entrepreneurs, business leaders, learning from their stories, learning from their challenges and how they overcame these challenges in order to help you succeed in the business world, climb the corporate ladder, or start your entrepreneur journey. So I'd like to start with one of our entrepreneurs who's a proud minority business owner, Terrance Weber. Terrance, I would love for you to just jump into real quick. What did you get out of our show? What do you think our listeners would take from our episode together?
Well, the hardest part about being an entrepreneur is starting. And I thought that, not just mine, but I listened to some of the other people's episodes as well. The backstory, the story of how you went from wherever you were, behind the pizza counter or flight instructor or wherever you may have been, to now being the owner and the business, the leader behind the business. Those stories are invaluable because there are people out there that that are capable and ready to start their own businesses, but they don't have the confidence, and the backstories are things that, what, he did it, I can do it. She did it, I can do it. And I think that is invaluable, and I really hope that that's people take a deep dive into that, and that if they're really interested in getting into the business world as an entrepreneur, that that they realize that it's not that simple. It's just a setup. It is that simple. You just have to start.
Right. Oh, I love that. Great way to move on to our next great podcast guest, Heather Howley. I had Heather on, and I think it's such a great transition to go from you to her, because Heather, same thing, right? Like, you just had to start. So Heather, why don't you share your key takeaway from our episode and what you think our listeners will learn from your story?
Yeah, so we kind of talked about it before we started tonight, and it's those BHAGs, right? The big, hairy, audacious goals. And I think if you set that goal, and then what our takeaway would be those actionable steps to get that goal done, and then just keep setting the goals, like I believe Joe said in our little intro before, where you have those actionable steps. And one of my favorite things to say is, how do you eat an elephant, right? And it sounds very strange, but it's really those BHAGs. And if you can eat it one bite at a time, or start with one actionable step at a time, it makes it so much easier to get to where you need to go and to really achieve those really crazy dreams that you may have. And it's not as hard as people make it out to be. It can be at times, but as long as you keep the goal in mind and you keep trudging towards that place, you'll get there. If you want something bad enough, you will find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, it's small chunks, and you and Terrance both said something about it. It's not as hard as what people make it to be, and life is hard. Anything we're gonna do that's worth doing is hard in life. But somebody that you lean on is your coach, right, Heather? You have a coach.
Yeah, I love her. Yeah, I've had her now. God, it's been 2013, I think we started, or 2014. And there are so many things that I've been through in my life in that time period that without her, I couldn't have made it through. And she's really the person who has pushed me to dream bigger and make bigger and bigger goals, and to help make the steps to get to them. But she's awesome. I couldn't do it without her.
Yeah, our network, the guidance and support of the people around us are what help us be able to accomplish these big, hairy, audacious goals. Yeah. Somebody who is a coach right here with us is Loralyn. Loralyn, why don't you share with our audience a little bit about what they can learn from our episode together?
Well, it was that there's really no sort of toe dipping. It's kind of like being pregnant. You can't be a little bit pregnant. Like, you are or you're not, right? If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be prepared to go all in. And I burnt the boats, right? Like, I mortgaged the house, did this, did everything, like, burnt the boats. And so there is no turning back, and there is nothing like that little added bit of pressure. But when you've got whatever your why is, and you're so tightly dialed into it, if you find that connection, then that's what motivates you every day. So not only have you burnt the boats, you got to find a way to get across the freaking river, and it's full of sharks and all the rest of this stuff. But you just keep reminding yourself, I am doing this because I choose to.
Yeah, and it's having that purpose, right? Because when you burn the boats, you better know what your purpose is. Yeah. You better know where you're going. So somebody who's very purpose driven, and I know is just like biting at the bit. Once he heard big, hairy, audacious goals, he couldn't wait to get his mic going. Joe Templin of the Intro Machine. Joe, why don't you just jump in there with your why?
With my why, my why was actually, can you clarify, Michael? My why.
Sure. Yeah.
Why I'm like this.
No. Well, Joe, actually, why don't I rephrase the question for you? I know for you, big, hairy, audacious goals, that's like something that you talk about all the time. You always talk about finding purpose and everything. But I think we had a huge takeaway in our episode. You have overcome pretty much dying at the age of 10 from an asthma attack, and then ADHD, and have been tremendously successful. So right with that setup right there, what can our listeners take away from your episode?
Well, what they should take away is that your life is a story. This is a book, and you get to write it every single day. So if you're going to write a book, you might as well try and write a bestseller. You might as well write something that's interesting that other people are going to want to read and be inspired by. And every day is to write something brand new. Yesterday might have sucked, okay? But what are you doing today from the moment that you get up until the moment that you lay your head on that pillow? What are you doing to maximize your life, to burn that candle at both ends? Because you get 86,400 seconds every single day. Same thing that Elon Musk gets. So how are you going to invest that time so that you get to enjoy it and that you get to have a life of impact on others that's going to carry forward if today is the last day that you have? So BHAGs are one way to do something phenomenal, whether it's running an ultra marathon, building a business, donating $100 million to charity, whatever those sort of things are. And that might be the long range goal. As they say in the Bible, people without a vision will perish. So that's what you orchestrate your life towards. That's what you work toward. It's part of your training plan. But then you have to break it down. What am I doing today? What am I doing this morning to move myself ahead toward those goals? To being a parent, being the best commissioner that I can for the basketball league, being the best name that I can, physical or mental or whatever these things are. What am I wasting those 86,400? Because guess what? You can't borrow any and you can't get any back.
That's right. Thank you so much, Joe. I love your passion, and that's really what I was looking for from you, was that passionate response that you had there. And the other thing we spoke about in our episode, which I think applies to all of us here on the call, is habit stacking. I mean, we don't necessarily call it that, but you're just talking, what you're speaking to right there is just having these good habits of, like, when you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? What's the second thing you do? What's the third thing you do? Because when you habit stack these great habits that all of you have, that's what leads to a successful day. Speaking of successful days, Mr. Jordan Depew over at Sawyer Savings and Loans, I have to give a big thank you to Jordan. Jordan is one of the people that helped me achieve my dream. He'll be very humble and modest about it, but there's a lot of bittersweet that came out of this COVID-19 environment that we've lived in. And one of them was I was going to get my vaccination shot. And while I was there, I ran into Jordan. And I said, "Hey, what's up, Jordan? How's it going?" And you talk about relationships. I met Jordan a year prior to seeing him again. It was at a networking event that I was speaking at. And we remembered each other. We hit it off right away. And he said, and I remember Jordan said to me, he said, "Hey, if you're still looking to open up an insurance agency, I could probably help you with that." And needless to say, he did help me with that. So a big thank you to Jordan and everybody at Sawyer Savings for helping me achieve that dream. But Jordan, why don't you tell us what our listeners can learn from you and what they can take away from our episode together?
Yeah, so I'm not nearly as interesting as everybody else on this call. I'm not an entrepreneur. I work for a bank, but I deal with entrepreneurs every day, essentially. Helping people, I've been able to pick up some of their great sayings, some of their great ideas, and how they get through and how they start a business and everything. So, just sharing some of those little tidbits and whatnot, and things that you don't necessarily read in a textbook, but you kind of learn from mingling and networking with people that are really helpful for people starting a business and just kind of getting through some of the tough points in their life too.
And something I'd add to your episode, and also so that everybody knows, it's not just about entrepreneurs. It's about people like yourself too, climbing the corporate ladder. Jordan, let's not dismiss the fact that you really did work at a pizzeria and literally went from the pizzeria to the bank, and what you were able to achieve. Speak a little bit about that, because there are kids, there are teenagers, there are 20-year-olds, there's 30-year-olds that are currently working in a job that they know they can go further in, and your story might be able to help them.
Yeah, I mean, let's take a step back from that, and look, I'm in my office right now where I look out this window right next to me, and I'm looking at a car wash that I worked with at my brother when I was 13, washing cars all summer long, and where our bank is right now, this used to be an Italian restaurant where the owners of the Italian restaurant I worked with at the pizzeria. So it was, just learning and just hustling and just continuing to make sure that I was, no matter if I was washing cars, no matter if I was delivering pizzas, no matter if I was behind the counter or what, just giving it my all, making sure that I had a good face on, make sure that I gave everybody great service, and just being the best that I could. And that, following those three things has led me to where I am today. And, Michael told me on our show, make sure you brag about yourself. I told him I couldn't do it, and I still can't do it. So that's why I like to, keep Mike around to do it for me. But, here we are, just being humble and being able to, put my best foot forward has led me to where I am today.
Yeah. And I love that working hard and being professional. And that's really what got some opportunities for you. Terrance, before you run, I know that you have to get going, but what was the experience like for you coming on the show, sharing your story?
There's a lot of guys out there that look like me. And I started my business 3 years ago, well into my 50s. I really, what I know now, I know I could have done it in my 30s, could have done it in my 20s. I had it. I just didn't have the confidence. And hopefully there'll be some guy out there that looks like me or some gal that has it and knows they have it, but they don't have the confidence to go ahead and take that step. Hopefully seeing me and seeing the fact that, we took a company from nothing in the toughest equipment rental market in the country, going up against, the Uniteds, the Sunbelts, the Hercs, and we're thriving. And the fact that I could do it means anybody can do it. You just gotta, take the step, there's steps to it. And if you follow the steps and you don't cheat yourself, you can do it too. And hopefully there's somebody out there that gets that message. And on that note,
yeah, before you run, I will say he makes it seem easy, but in his episode, he does share calling old past coworkers at 2-3 o'clock in the morning saying, "Hey, I'm on the job. Where are you?" All right, Terrance.
You got to be motivated. The fish don't jump in the boat. You got to catch them.
Thanks for joining us. Loralyn, it seems like you had a little input on what Terrance just said there. I could tell by your facial reactions. Did you want to add to some of what he just said?
Well, it's an incredible opportunity. Like, first, as a podcast host myself, that I know what goes into the work and the production and all that. So whenever you get a chance to tell your own story with the hopes that you can inspire somebody else, it's amazing. And the effort that you put into it, from the pre to the, to the production, to the post-production, like now, I mean, that's incredible. You don't see that in a lot of podcast hosts, and it helps us amplify all of our individual messages and pieces and parts and things that we can do. And like, together we're stronger. And so I love that. Like, I feel like community, it's like, hi guest, it's, so I think it's incredible. And that's where Terrance was going. Like, it takes a village, and you've got to learn by others from their example. And so it's up to all of us that are definitely over 30, right, Terrance? That, to set the new bar.
Hey, ladies, gentlemen, thank you for taking a little time to hear my story. I loved hearing your stories. I really wish I could stay longer. I've got to run, but have a wonderful show, and I look forward to hearing your stories in the future.
Cool. Thank you, Terrance. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. Wonderful. Yeah. And, I have to give a shout out to Cecile on this because it was Cecile's idea to do a group email in our last Meet the Guest. She said, let's do a group email so that all the guests can get to know each other and can have each other's emails and they're part of a community together. So I really love that. And I thank Cecile for that. And with Cecile back here, Cecile, we are at that time. Did we have any guests? Did any guests have any questions for us?
Yes, absolutely. So you actually have a couple of questions for you folks. One question here from Emma. She said, how have your priorities changed from when you first started? So anybody want to pick that question up?
I would like to hear Heather's response on that one.
Oh, I was thinking about that. Like mine have ebbed and flowed. So it started with I would do nothing but work all the time and nothing else mattered. I had no personal life whatsoever. And I only focused on the business. And then I actually lost my husband in 2014. And that was probably what shifted my priorities. And I started really focusing more. And I mean, even when we were married, I still started shifting then. But I started realizing that my business is what it is, but I also need to have my own life. And so, yes, it gives me the privilege and the accessibility to have a better personal life, but I kind of shifted gears more that way. And now I would say it kind of has gone back and forth, and it changes with staffing. It changes with, the economy and what's going on in our world. And so my priorities change quite a bit. I would say they ebb and flow is probably the best way that I can describe how my priorities have changed, but they're just different now. When you first start a business, you're thinking about how do I make payroll, or how do I bring in the product, or any of the basic things. And then as you get bigger and bigger, it's like, okay, well, what's next? Am I prepared for retirement? Am I looking at my exit strategy? That's a very loaded, I can keep going. There's a ton there. Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, you had a lot of changes happen, some big ones. And I thank you so much for being so authentic, so real during our podcast. It was very touching. So thank you so much. Does anybody else want to take that question? Just put your hand up quick. All right. Go ahead, Cecile. Do we have another one?
Yes, we have another question here from Steven. Steven's asking, how do you measure success? I personally want to know.
Joe, that's yours. How do you measure success, Joe?
Well,
he's written books on it.
A couple of ways to measure. With the BHAG, first off, you set this goal out there. It's shooting for the moon. So my goal is to sell 1 million copies of my book this year. Okay. And if that happens, it's literally life-changing. But you can't just depend on that, because if I sell 999,999, does that make me a failure? No. But if that's your big, hairy, audacious goal, you need to have your minimum threshold where I need to do X to be able to pay my mortgage and take care of my kids and run my life and be able to survive. And with entrepreneurs, we have to also consider what's our opportunity cost, because I could be going and doing something else. So if I make $100,000 and I'm working 70 hours a week, that's not a good trade-off, because I could go make that and still actually sleep at night and have a life by working someplace else. So you've got this minimal acceptable, and then you've got this BHAG, and everybody's going to define success in their own personal way. I personally love the journey. I love the daily grind. I focus on the activities, whether it's, okay, I need to send out 100 emails a week to get on podcasts. I need to talk to 20 agencies per week about doing consulting with them purchasing the books. So I have those activities that I measure on a weekly and daily basis. And so I know if I'm hitting those activities, if I'm running the miles, essentially, I'll be able to run my ultra marathon down the road. If I'm doing the dials and getting the introductions on a daily and weekly basis, I'm going to have the output, the production I need to be able to be where I want to be. And so you create this almost, I don't want to say task list, but it's almost a punch list of I need to accomplish these things. And if I'm doing that, I should get the output that I want. And then it's learning to love the grind of doing those things every single day so that I can get a chance to interact with entrepreneurs like you guys and ladies and be able to hear these stories and the fun things along the way of the journey. So success needs to be very personalized and tied to what is truly important, why drives you. And once you tie doing in terms of your life, like work life, personal life, academic life, physical fitness life, mental health, all those, you tie it back to that. Then you just get into doing the work and love it and can sit back at the end of the day or the end of the week and say, that was awesome.
Wow.
Awesome, Joe. Thank you so much. Yeah, Richard Branson talks about living in harmony. And I love that. My coach reminds me of that all the time. You're trying to live in harmony, Michael. There's no such thing as balance. You're just trying to live in harmony. Do we have another question, Cecile?
An alignment with your feelings and philosophies.
Yep.
Oh, thank you so much, Joe. We have a question from Katie. What's your favorite memory as a business owner?
Well, Loralyn, you didn't get to answer that, and Jordan, you've already answered that for us, so we'll give that to Loralyn.
Well, so far, just holding the trademark that's been awarded to like the business and the name, because it's what that embodies, that we've created something out of nothing, and that's an exciting thing. I mean, there's, like I said, there's a lot, like all the interns and, that they come forward and they're like, wow, this has changed my life. I mean, that's all, like, that's why we exist. But just from a singular moment, it's like, wow. And then it was put it away, file it, like next. Okay. Like I've got stuff to do. Great.
Awesome. I'm going to put a little spin on it actually for you, Jordan, because actually part of what we talked about earlier on before we came on live was just talking about how entrepreneurship is so glorified today, but it's also should be glorified what you did in the what you're doing in the corporate world of climbing that corporate ladder. So why don't you share with us too, like what's so great and so special about what you're doing where you are right now and climbing that ladder?
I mean, being a part of an organization, especially one that I work at, we've been around for 150 years. It gets daunting. I wake up sometimes, I'm like, 150 years on my back, like to make sure like I'm bringing the right people in, I'm bringing our customers the great service that they've always experienced and making it better, making processes better. It's sometimes it feels like a mountain, but sometimes I kind of just look around and I work with my staff and see everything working like a well-oiled machine, like it's supposed to go. And it gives me a lot of satisfaction that it's working right, because at the end of the day, I'll go back to how do I define success? There are certain metrics that, we have to hit, set by management and the board to make sure we're being successful, growing. But to me, success is the customer satisfaction, making sure that the customers that we're doing mortgages for, making sure that the business owners that we're giving loans out to that we're meeting all their expectations and getting them what they need in order to be successful. Giving keys to a first-time home buyer, there's no better satisfaction than that. Seeing them achieve the dream of buying their first home, moving their whole family in, and seeing what's in store for their future. So kind of be there throughout the whole process. You can't really put a number on it per se. It's just how, the feelings and everything that come out. But to kind of get back to the question of climbing the corporate ladder, it's a challenge every day. And how do you beat that challenge? Are you better this morning or tonight than you were this morning? And what are you doing today to set up to the future for tomorrow? So that way, where I work, that we're around for another 150 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember you shared this in our podcast too, where it's not just getting to where you are right now. So very similar to our entrepreneurs here today. And we're talking about BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, but it's also setting up what's the next step for you? Yeah. So you've achieved really great success at a very young age, but what's the next step for you in the banking industry, in the bank that you're in? And as you said, carrying that 150 years and making sure you're setting the groundwork for the next 150 years. So there's a lot of parallels to it all. Cecile, do we have any other questions for our guests?
Actually, I do have a woman-to-woman question for.
Okay. Well, happy Women's International Day. So go ahead, Cecile.
Exactly. So, as a female industry leader, what does International Women's Day mean to you?
Joe?
Oh, so can I answer that one too?
Please.
Do you mind? I mean, Loralyn, I want you to say something as well. But so we just did, I'm at this big helicopter convention, and the industry that I'm in is very male dominated. And so I would say we've been doing a ton of stuff for Women's International Day today. And it's probably the first year that I've ever noticed us actually doing something for it. So it's been very interesting. But yeah, I would say, sharing what we do with other women and inspiring other women is a big part of why I'm in the industry that I'm in and why I do what I do, because I want to show other women that it's possible, not only to be an entrepreneur, but to be a helicopter pilot and to be a woman in a male dominated field. And some fields I don't think are necessarily for us, but I think the things that we can do are really valuable in those fields that we're not necessarily a part of all the time.
Wow.
I actually went the other way. So even in my posts and all of that today, I don't think women should be celebrated on just one day. I think everyone who is good and kind to other people and raises other people up should be celebrated every day and all the time. So I'm a STEMinist, like PhD, this, that, the whole thing, break the barriers, like what box, like, all of that sort of stuff. But everybody should embrace whomever that they are. And as long as you're not leaving bodies in your wake as you're moving forward, and if you're climbing the ladder, you use the other hand to reach down and pull somebody up. I don't care, what your gender is, what your orientation is, what any of that is. Just be good, be kind, and then we should all celebrate you. So I really kind of don't buy into the International Women's Day thing.
Cool. No, and totally understandable. I mean, a lot of these holidays are out there, but what I will say in response to you with that too is it does just bring up this conversation, which I think is really important to have. What I would like to do is also open it up to Jordan or Joe if they want to chime in on what it means to them, because I know that they have some wonderful women who've influenced them in their lives. I know that for myself, I have several that I'm going to have to thank in a moment.
Yeah, I know. I'll start with that. My first boss at the bank, she was our COO, and she really took me under her wing, taught me a lot. And to see her, having seen her career, as she shared with me over the years, it was interesting. And she was a single mom of two at the time when she first started, and being able to work almost 60 hours a week at one point, and it was awesome. And then another woman is my mom. She wasn't an entrepreneur, but she was just a hard worker all the time. And she's the one who really instilled in me, give it your all. If you're not going to give it your all, don't do it. There were times where I was younger and I wanted to stop playing a sport because we lost a game or something like that. And she said, fine, you don't have to play next season, but you're gonna finish what you started. And I can tell you, I went back and I started my MBA before I got my first promotion here and whatnot, and I put it on hold to do what I needed. And I started back up to finish it up in 2020 because all I could hear her in the back of my head saying, finish what you start. So
Awesome. Joe, did you have any input on this? All right, now, any other questions, Cecile?
Maybe one more.
Sure. Well, I'm gonna stay on this topic for 1 second because I have this International Women's Day gave me such a great opportunity to thank.
I was trying to unmute actually. I was trying to unmute so I could answer.
Why don't you go ahead then?
All right. So I apologize, but so I have three of the closest, most important people in my life are international women. My best friend growing up, as I say, my favorite sister, fled Vietnam at the fall of Saigon. And she's worked in India and London and all over that place. And I talk to her every single day, multiple times, because we need each other's support. She was there when my mom died. I was there when her dad died. So having Ziem's perspective on things, and that she's an incredibly powerful person in the publishing world. Unfortunately, can't help me with my book because it's academic publishing as opposed to a different area. But the closeness and the being able to get that different perspective. My right arm, who runs my websites and is my conscience in a lot of ways, is Canadian. One of my closest female friends is Romanian. So I get these influences coming from all these places. And my mom was the one who pushed me. She basically raised us because my dad was traveling as a consultant. But my mom's the one who raised us on the farm. She was an educator. She's the one who set the standard that we live by. And my mom always hated Mother's Day. And her reason was, you shouldn't just love somebody and show your love on that day. So, yeah, we'd give her a present or a card or whatever, but it was the random I love you card or text or things like that. The showing the appreciation every single day, not just Valentine's Day to show your crush or your sweetie that they're important to you that day, but every single day. And so when everybody else is doing one day of something spectacular, but you're doing every single day, every single morning, showing that you love them, showing that you thank them, showing that you appreciate them, listening to them, involving them, bringing them up. That is so much more than just one day, yay, all that. It is the consistent effort around, you are a quality human being that is important to me, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. And you and Loralyn have a lot to share in common there about not just picking one particular day. I really do love that, and I'm sure many of us appreciate that sentiment. I did want to also thank some of the women in my life. I like the interpretation that you had there, Joe, because it's very interesting. You interpreted it as International Women, and it's International Women's Day. So there is a couple ways that we can interpret this. Now, my mother is Haitian. I'm of Haitian descent. My mother's Haitian. And when I said to her, Happy International Women's Day, she said, oh, is it because I'm international? And I said, well, no, I think it's something that Americans came up with. So, but I do want to give a big thank you to all the women in my life. My grandmother, Dudu, who I share a birthday with, and who really taught me that people can do anything. And I love that analogy, Loralyn, about reaching up the ladder and reaching behind. I tell a story all the time about my grandmother when I dropped an ice cream cone. I dropped my ice cream and I dropped the cone and I was crying in the street. And my grandmother said, no worries, we're going to just clean it up and go right back to the vendor and get you another one, showing me that anything can be done for somebody you love. It's a longer story than that, but I think you all get the idea. So I do want to take this opportunity on International Women's Day to thank all of the women who have been the backbone to my entrepreneurial journey so far at Michael Esposito Inc. and at Den 10. So I'll start with Merritt Minnemeyer, who's my coach, Sheila Gilday, my web developer, Katie Haynes, my marketing manager, Laura White at iHeart, helping us, giving me the opportunity to be able to host a podcast with all of you amazing people. Janet Giannetta, my HR person, Cecile right here, Pepper Concierge, my personal assistant, who I remember when I got on the phone with Cecile, she told me everything that she can do for me. And then I ghosted her for a month. And then the next thing she knew, she got a payment in the bank account. And I was like, I need you, girl. So happy to have Cecile on my team. Of course, my mother, my wife, Devin, and then my daughters, Denise and Tenley, who I've named Den 10 after. So I have to thank, today is giving me such a great opportunity to thank all of these wonderful women in my life, and for all the other women who have been a part of my life and journey, I thank you so, so much. Before we conclude this episode, I would like to give it to you, my podcast guest. Is there any last bit of information, of stories, of anything that you would like to share with our guests before we wrap up and they can maybe contact you or listen to your episode?
Mike, I just want to know when you're going to get interviewed and share your story, because I think your story is pretty interesting yourself.
I'm open to it. Why don't you reach out to me? Call me up, podcasters.
Be on my show. It's the Grid Files. There you go. I've invited you.
Okay, well then I'm in. So Loralyn's going to be interviewing me. Thanks, Jordan.
No problem.
I get to be in the hot seat. While you're there, Loralyn, why don't you tell us quickly about your podcast show?
It's called The Grit Files. We focus on the entrepreneurial backstory, all of like the really gritty stuff, right? The stuff that no one else really wants to air out. It's, again, not all bros and Lambos, that there are bumps along the way, and people share those stories.
Cool. Well, I'm sure I'll be crying in your seat. Joe, I heard you have a new book coming out. Do you want to share with everyone what that book is? You're frozen right now. There we are.
Literally the day after I finished writing Everyday Excellence, I started on the next book and the next one, because that's I am in completely different spaces. One is specifically for anybody who's trying to sell themselves, not in a really weird way, but anybody who sells their services, who sells their knowledge, their time. So accountants, attorneys, insurance guys like Michael, Jordan, so it's about how to build an introduction-based business. And it breaks down to two real components. And these are two things that, Loralyn, we should talk about at some point. There's the skill set, which everybody talks about. It's how do you ask for introductions, or how do you, model certain things, or it's the technical components. But the bigger determinant of success is the will set. Is how do you get that stick-to-itiveness, that grit to get and develop resilience? Because being an entrepreneur or climbing the corporate ladder like Jordan, you're going to have bad days. There's going to be things beyond your control. There's going to be crap. And so how do you build that internal fortitude to overcome this on a basis and be able to ultimately achieve what you want? So it's those two components on how to build an introduction-based business, no matter what space you're looking at.
Very cool, Joe. Yeah, and Joe's books are all right on Amazon, so you can find them there. And if you can contact him, might be able to get a signed copy. You never know. Jordan, what's new at Sawyer Savings? Your lobbies are open.
The lobby's open, no mask. Knock on wood. Hopefully, we're all over this. We just released a new product on the 1st. It's a green home equity line of credit. So I'd be remiss to pass the opportunity up to talk about it really quickly. Just anybody who owns a home and looking to do some upgrades, that anything that's energy efficient. This is what this product's here for. It's a 1.99% 2-year interest only loan before it converts to a 15-year amortizing loan. So be happy to talk to anybody about that. So
I love that, investing in people who invest in going green. That's really wonderful. Thanks so much, Jordan. And you guys do a tremendous job over there. And Heather, when you get back from Dallas, what are you doing? Are you picking me up in Highland?
I mean, we could go anywhere you want. Yeah, no, I'll be back flying. We actually, like most of the companies now, I think are having staffing issues. So we'll be hiring pilots hopefully shortly, and we're coming into our busy season. So there'll be a lot of flying going on soon. Yeah.
I look forward to it. I get to see all the helicopters fly by me. I'm right here on the Hudson River. So definitely give me a wave when you fly by my house. Cecile, International Women's Day. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about your day and what's new with you and what we all have to look forward to from Pepper.
Oh, we're going to be launching a masterclass for this coming spring. So this is going to be about, getting organized for the spring, both in your business, in your home, and in your office spaces. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Pepper. Thank you so much, Cecile. Awesome group of ladies over there at Pepper. I also want to share with everybody that we're launching a suit drive for veterans. We are launching it right now, as of now, all the way till March 31st, in combination with saveasuit.org and a couple other veteran-owned businesses. One of them, which was on my podcast, Patriotic Insurance, Rob Bowen. We have One Epic Place, Nicole and Julie, Katie Haynes Marketing and Media, all veterans. And so in collaboration with all of them, Den10 Insurance, we're doing Save a Suit. So you can donate your suits, professional attire for men and for women to saveasuit.org, or you could bring it to me in order to collect at One Epic Place. I have a visitor here Are you coming in to say hi, Tenley? Come on in. We have the 10 to the den right here. She decided she wanted to make a cameo. Say hello to everyone. That's why I was interrupted. But yeah, so we're launching this this initiative here, saveasuit.org, to be able to help veterans to find professional jobs. So please reach out to me if you have a suit, if you have any professional clothes, shirts, belts, shoes, accessories. Here's Denise saying hi to everybody. Go ahead, say hi, Denise. Hi. All right, girls. Thank you. So that's the saveasuit.org, and that's Denise and Tenley. You know, I learned. Yes, that's Den 10. I learned from a video I saw on YouTube of a it was a TV personality, and he was getting interviewed, and his daughter came in the room, and she came in the background, and you could see the maid. She's like crawling, and she grabs her by the thing and pulls her out. And I was like, oh man, I never want to be that dad. So I was, you know, I tried my hardest to be as patient as possible here. But anyway, I also would just like to encourage all of our viewers, if you haven't yet, to download the iHeart app on your phones and listen to the Michael Esposito Show, where you can hear Heather Howley's story, Jordan Depue's story, Loralyn's story, Joe's story. You can hear so many others. Terrance, who was also on the show. Great stories. You could learn so much from our guests. I want to thank you all so much for making the time tonight to be with us tonight, everyone that came on the show, and all of our listeners and viewers and commenters. Thank you so much. And finally, I do need to thank our sponsor. The Michael Esposito Show has landed a sponsor, no other than Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses. Thank you, Loralyn. Congratulations, Den 10, on sponsoring the Michael Esposito Show. That CEO, he was really hard to get a hold of, but I was able to lock him in. Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy with Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. Thank you, everyone, so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Safe trip home, Heather. Safe trip, everyone. Thank you. Cecile, thanks for all you do.
You're so welcome, Michael. Just wanted to let our viewers know all of the information of our guest are in the comments down below. And if you wanted to donate a suit and wanted more information, it's also in the comments below. And for all of you watching us on the replay, hello. Still feel free to ask your questions, and we'll forward it over to our guest speakers.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks everyone. I'll be on your show, Loralyn. Don't you worry.
Perfect. I'll set you up.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye, Cecile. All right.
I'm ending it.